Welcome back to a wonderful show with your boy Imperial Niggas. You're in the throne room, and every 10 a.m. on Mondays, we scream, God. You feel that? You're with your boy Niggas the Guys today. Man, I thank you guys for joining me. Of course, I got to shout out a beautiful USA, man. Shout out to everybody that's joining me today, man. How you guys feeling out there? How you guys feeling, man? Thank you for staying locked in every day at 10 a.m. You're going to catch your boy, Niggas the Guys here. Man, I got a wonderful topic for you today, man. And it's basically just talking about the things that control your thinking and control the parts of your brain that you need to focus on before this enemy strikes the amygdala and causes you to compromise your frontal lobe, compromise your temporal lobe, compromise your brain stem and your parietal lobe and your occipital lobe and your cerebellum lobe. Guys, we got to start using our frontal lobe. It is involved with our thinking. It is involved with the way that we speak, our memory, our movement, and we give meanings to these things that give us emotions. It triggers these emotions and it provokes these actions and it contributes to our behavior, and it's tied to a post-traumatic slavery. Okay? Slavery can be looked at in different ways than the slavery that we went through for 400 years. All right? You can be a slave to your emotions. Your emotions can be a master over you if you don't have emotional mastery. You can be a slave to your money if you don't have any wealth mastery. Okay? You can be a slave to your fear if you don't have any self-control. And the amygdala, which they say is an almond, diamond-shaped part of your brain. And then there's the preaqueductal gray. That is another part of the brain, which is still associated with the amygdala, which is located in the midbrain. These things can be affected by the enemy. And the way and how the economy is built, we get a lot of options, right? We get the option of going to work. We get the option of going to the supermarket, going to the movies, going to see a friend, going on a date, being on these relationships. And there are a lot of options at stake. And it's like taking a multiple choice test. Okay. Now you're challenged with scoring 100, but your main goal is to pass, but 100 would be great. You don't want to fail, but then you have options. And if your skill of certainty, your skill of knowing, okay, your skill of, being sure about things. Okay. I won't get being sure of things. That way you have more crystallized, clear, more clarity on where it is you're trying to grow. You don't want to grow and then you just bloom in all type of different directions, right? It's about money, attitude, direction, education. Okay. So we want to try to maintain a healthy brain state here in this frontal lobe, which is involved in thinking. Okay. The problem is sometimes the amygdala affects the thinking in this frontal lobe. When it affects the thinking, the speaking starts to reflect through the thinking. So how you're thinking affects your speaking, right? The way you use grammar, the way and how you speak to a crowd. Some of you don't speak at all. All right. And this is due to the memory being affected and being associated with a past that the amygdala runs on 6 factors, right? Anger, joy, happiness, and all other emotional factors. The experiences that you had using these factors are key to your present. It ties into your present and how you interact with people, how you interact with your job, how you interact with your employees, how you interact with your boss, right? If you were angry at your boss in the past, that can affect how you look at bosses now, the level of respect that you have for bosses. You have to start looking into, well, what went and happened in my past that has affected my present. Be your own therapist there. If something bad happened, okay. Are you still in the self-nurturing mode where you're kind of like stuck with the fact that it happened to you, and you're not looking at it as it's happening for you, right? For you to grow, for you to gain resilience, for you to move forward, for you to let go and let God because of your studies, right? And the good thing God has done to you to bring you to this point, to be listening to throne room and to be listening to me, baby. Think about your temporal lobe. Hearing, learning, and feeling, right? What are you hearing? What are you taking in heed, right? Because your temporal lobe is at work here. And as it's hearing, it's learning. And as it's learning, it's feeling an emotion. So your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right, may say sweet things to you. You may hear it in a loving way, or you may hear it through post-traumatic ears, right? And it's causing feelings to arise that's associated with past conditions, circumstances, situations. And that's affecting the way in how you perceive the thing that is being transmitted to you, right? The words, those feelings, the way in how you put out those sensory outputs, right? To create the experiences and the behavior that you have. So, we got to look into the parietal lobe. Language governs your language, your touch, how you've been touched. These things all hold perception. And if you don't have a mastery over these, let's say, departments of the brain, then you can become a slave to it. You can be a slave to money, where money has a hold on you. Less money, you feel a certain type of way. You do certain things. You hang out with certain type of people. You dress a certain type of way. You pick a certain type of partners a certain type of way. When it's not so much the money that you have, but it's so much of having what you want and then turning that into a service using a Google technique, right? Because Google is a company that is tied to third parties, and it directs people to these third parties, and they get paid for their service, and they're able to last long. Apple became a service. It gave you phones so you can transmit calls to loved ones, to family, and also search the internet on the go. It is a service. So services are lasting. Not the fat cats. The government is even a service. If you think about it, gives food stamps, don't it? Gives government aids, doesn't it? Doesn't it give government health? So we got to understand that these are services. And we are here to serve God. Okay, first, serve God. You look into yourself and you make sure that this amygdala, that is a sensitive part of the body, is not affected by any type of way, right? Because if fear is induced into this department of the brain. So if fear is induced in this department of the brain, you don't want to let this department of the brain be compromised by situations and circumstances that are tied to post-traumatic events that may have been going on in your past. So we're focused on 6 parts of the brain. Another part of the brain you have is the brain stem. That's involved with breathing, heart rate, and your temperature. So even in the way how you breathe, your brain gets involved with that. It even gets involved with your heart rate, your brain stem. It even gets involved with your temperature. So a lot of times, and that's really near the throat. So as we induce food and then we induce drinks and things of that nature, the brain stem is right there to kind of get involved with that. And breathing, heart rate, and temperature can be affected, right? Where the parietal lobe that governs language and touch, and the cerebellum that's involved with balance coordination, they can all be affected when you put in chemicals in your body or even certain type of foods. So we want to be very careful. But going back to the multiple choices are challenging. Multiple choices can affect the emotional parts of the brain, right? Which is the frontal lobe. It puts you back in the amygdala or the preaqueductal gray part of the brain. It can enhance fear. And if you have certain type of traumas, as far as you taking a test in your childhood and you failing those tests, that can trigger an emotion, right? That can stem fear, and that could turn into a trauma where when you take a test when you're older, when fear strikes or uncertainty strikes, right, from this unknowing, right, and this lack of exercising the muscle of certainty, exercising the muscle of knowing by exercising the muscle of studying, right, and reciting, right, and proofreading, your mind will naturally be a proof seeker in itself and seek the proof that you are a knowing, certain, loving, crystallized creature where you perceive things on a real crystallized level. So it's all about taking that unpressured carbon and pressurize it into a diamond. That's what you are. Even when you die, you're a diamond. See what I'm saying? So it's all a beautiful thing. Like diamonds in the sky. But so a lot of things help us figure out our next move in this complex matrix we call a life. And there's two hemispheres of the brain. There's the left hemisphere of the brain, there's the right hemisphere of the brain. And each hemisphere controls the opposite sides of the body. So you have different type of lobes, frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal. And each of these lobes control specific aspects of thinking processes in the brain. So we have to be aware of what we might compromise if we face with all these options, from instant gratification and challenges of having to pick, from multiple choices and things of that nature. When we have so many choices in the world, it becomes a question of, well, what do you choose? And am I certain that that's the right thing? And is that the thing that's going to make me grow? And we have to realize that sometimes choosing the wrong answer could be a lesson in disguise, because the wrong answer exposes the other answers that may be right. And it even exposes a part of you that says, you know what? Sometimes I'm going to go with my first instinct here, because I thought about this, but now I realize that that is the right answer. And I am tripping because I am panicking where I'm picking the wrong things. But we're certain creatures, we're knowing creatures, and we're not letting that affect our faith in the Most High. Thank you for joining me on Promote God. This is the throne room, by the way. And yes, my website is thehiddenmajesty.com. And yes, you can follow me at NickEXP7 for your realtor needs. And yes, my name is Negus Nagas, last name Young. And I definitely appreciate everybody for listening. And my broadcasting time is about to be up. Could you believe it? Man, this was a powerful topic. It really was. So let's not let the enemy creep inside of the amygdala part of the brain where the hippocampus department is, right? Because we want to be certain creatures, and we want to be knowing creatures, and we want to be crystallized, clear creatures, so we can see our future and our path ahead of us. Thank you for joining the throne room. Please subscribe, share, download, tell all your friends. I am here every 10 a.m. Tuesday. Thank